All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today we have Intro to PowerPoint Part 2. Rebecca will be our instructor and I will introduce her in a moment. I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping details about Zoom and then we'll get started. My name is Susan Winkler. I am our technology librarian here at the Champaign Public Library and we're happy to have you today. A couple of things about Zoom. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you should have a little chat bubble. We do ask that if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and then I will relay them to Rebecca. If you need us to demo something a second time, please feel free to put that in the chat as well. And I'll ask Rebecca to show it a second time. There is also a raise hand button. If you would prefer to speak your question aloud rather than typing it, I know sometimes it can, if you have a lengthy question, it can take a long time to type it out. Please go ahead and use that raise hand button and then I will unmute you so that you can ask your question out loud to Rebecca. We also have a little CC button down there that is for live transcripts. If you would like to see what we are saying come across in text at the bottom, you can enable that. If it's distracting and you don't want it, you can also disable it just by hitting that button right there. We are recording today's session. The YouTube video, we will put the video recording from today's session up on our YouTube channel, and then we will send the link in the follow-up email along with any additional follow-up to any questions that get asked today that require a little bit more research or anything like that. And I think that's everything that I had.
I think that sounds right. Everything
sounds right. Okay, well then I'd like to go ahead and introduce Rebecca and let Rebecca tell you a little bit about herself and then we'll get started.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Van Dusen, as Susan introduced me before. I am a library associate here at the Champaign Public Library. I assist Susan and help teach classes as well. I really enjoy teaching everything from PowerPoint, which we're covering today, to Apple computers, to some of the ebook app like Libby or Hoopla that we have. So overall, it's really fun. And PowerPoint Part 2 is what we're going to cover today. And of course, if you had missed Part 1, we do have that up on our YouTube channel, so you can go in to review if you need to. And we'll put the handout in the chat as well, so that if you want to follow along, you'll be able to follow along. I think that's pretty much all I have, so we can get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And we'll share the presentation. I downloaded Part 1. Let me get Part 2. Hold on one second.
Okay. Well, while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and post in the chat with the handout.
Okay. Let's see.
Here's today's handout. And welcome everyone for Part 2.
Recent Part 1, Part 2. Here we go.
And then when you're ready, I'll spotlight your video too.
Let me go ahead and save this.
So like
I noticed that.
Yes. And like Rebecca said, if you missed Part 1, you can get the handout for Part 1 as well. I could share that in the chat too, if needed. But if you registered for Part 1, you should have gotten an email today with the link to the video and the handout from last week. Most of what we're covering today is just essentially other components. So it's not necessary to have taken one to understand what we cover in Part 2, but
all right, so I hope you're seeing my intro slide there, and it should say Part 2. Yes.
Yes. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and spotlight your video and stop mine.
All right, so let's jump right in. So last week we did a lot of intro PowerPoint information. We're going to cover some of that again today, just because we're going to go over some of the same tools that we used. But of course, if you missed last week and you have a question about what I'm talking about, please feel free to ask. That's what I'm here for, to clarify or to demonstrate. So of course, we're going to talk about PowerPoint. The version we cover today is 2016. If you have PowerPoint through the Microsoft OneDrive, that's okay too. That's the Microsoft 365 online version. It's not going to have the full functionality that the software that we're using has, but it should have some overlaps. And I should also say that we have PowerPoint 2016 here at the library. So if you're ever here and you want to use PowerPoint, maybe to create something on your own or to use it for practice, you can always come in, get onto one of our computers, and then get onto PowerPoint. We also have Word and Excel as well. So today we're going to cover what we call slide views. So that's the different way that you look at your slides on your PowerPoint. It'll make more sense once we jump in. We're going to talk about inserting. So we'll insert some pictures, some text. We're going to insert some tables and more. I'll show you how to do all of that today. We're also going to talk about transitions and animations. I think one of the most enjoyable parts of PowerPoint is getting to customize it, and you can really get into the customizing with transitions and animations. I think it's a really fun part of PowerPoint. Okay, before we start, are there any questions?
No questions so far, but again, if you do have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat or raise your hand and we'll unmute you to ask it out loud.
Yes. All right. So of course, to access PowerPoint 2016, if you're on a Windows computer, you're going to go down to your search bar there and you can type in PowerPoint and that should pop up your PowerPoint application in the search results. You can also get into your start menu to access PowerPoint. Your start menu just looks like that little Windows logo at the bottom left corner of your computer. And then it should list all of the apps that you have in alphabetical order. So then you can select PowerPoint from the list. If you're on a Mac computer, you can also search it. You can use the search bar from the top part of your computer, or you can also get into your applications folder using the Finder. So the slide I have up here is for Windows, but for Mac as well, you can search or you can look in your applications folder. Here's the screenshot there of the start menu from the Windows experience. So you can see PowerPoint's listed alphabetically there. Okay, so once you open up PowerPoint, you'll have the option to choose what type of presentation you want to start. So you can either select a blank presentation or you can choose a theme design. And a lot of the designs center around certain colors, texts. They may also fall into a certain theme, like maybe it's a business theme, a photo theme, maybe it's a calendar theme. There's tons of different themes that are built into PowerPoint 2016. So once you open up PowerPoint, I suggest kind of browsing around just to see what's out there. I usually like to start with a blank presentation and then change my theme later, but it's up to you. You can really work in any way that you want. Any questions so far?
No questions at the moment.
Okay. Okay, so let me exit out of our presentation here, and then I can get into the example PowerPoint that I created that we're going to kind of delve into these things that I'm covering. Let's get into my PowerPoint. Okay, so I hope you're seeing my PowerPoint presentation that says Champaign Public Library, a tour.
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. So for me, I started out here with a blank presentation. So of course it's got that really kind of white, stark background, and it's got that default text there. I think it's just like a text that's associated, probably Calibri is the text type. But first, let's go ahead and quickly kind of recap one of the things we talked about last week, which was the ribbon. So the ribbon is that big space up at the top here, up at the top of our screen on PowerPoint, and it's going to contain some things up here. So we're going to have all of our tabs, which we can go through if we click on them. And each of these tabs pertains to a different type of function that you can do. So for instance, if we go to our insert tab, we can insert things into our PowerPoint, such as pictures or shapes or text boxes or tables even. We're going to do a table later on. If we go to our home tab, that's got a lot of the kind of like text-based functions, such as changing your fonts, your text size. You can add a new slide from the home tab, copy and paste, change your text orientation, add bullet points. And within these tabs, of course, is all of the groups. So you'll see in the home tab, we have a clipboard group, a slides group, a font group, paragraph group, drawing, and editing. And each of these groups has a little icon inside, which pertains to a particular function. So for instance, in the font group, we have options so that we can bold our text, make it italicized, underlined. We can change the color, change the size, change the type of font. So each group is going to have things that pertain to that particular subject. And of course, maybe in the slides group, we have the option to create a new slide. We can change our slide layout. So those are all things that are within each group. So yeah, the ribbon is going to be kind of like your toolbar up at the top, where you're going to get into those really regularly used functions while you're creating your PowerPoint presentation. And your file tab, of course, that's just if you wanted to get in to go ahead and save your presentation or print it or share it, or even get into creating a new presentation. With the file tab, mostly that's just going to be for that. You're not really going to have functions or groups inside of the file tab. Do you have any questions about the ribbon?
No questions so far, but again, feel free to post your questions in chat, or if you'd like, raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can ask it out loud.
Yeah. And I should also say that the ribbon is a really kind of common thing with Microsoft software. So if you've ever used Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, they also have a ribbon, and it's pretty similar in terms of they have tabs, they have groups, they have functions. Now, of course, they're slightly different because those functions pertain to that program, but you're going to see a lot of the same sort of design elements, and it may look familiar to you if you've used those. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is slide views. So when you're creating a presentation, you have a couple of options in terms of how your slide looks. So you can create a slide in either widescreen or standard. So what do I mean by that? So widescreen is just the aspect ratio of the size of the slide. So widescreen is 16:9 and standard is 4:3. So if you're familiar with movies, you may have heard of widescreen movies or full screen movies. Widescreen are more of those like wider style, more rectangular in terms of the shape, and standard is more square. So let me actually show what that looks like so you can see the difference in PowerPoint. So what you'll do to change your aspect ratio is we're going to go to the design tab. And then in the top right corner, you're going to see where it says slide size. And I'm hovering over it with my mouse right now. You'll also notice when you hover your mouse over certain icons, it may tell you what the function is. So for us, it's saying it's the slide size, and that we can change the size of the slides by using that tool. So let's go ahead and click on that. And then we have a little drop-down menu here where we can decide if we want widescreen or standard. There is also an option to customize your slide size, but usually I would stick to one of these two, just because if I'm going from my computer to another computer, I don't want anything to get wonky once I open it up with my custom slide size. It's kind of hard to say.
We have our first question. Does this change all slides or only the one that you're viewing on the screen?
I believe that it changes all of the slides. Let me just test that. So currently I'm in widescreen. I have that selected. So let's change it to standard so we can see what that looks like. Okay. So now you'll notice this. Do you see this window that popped up?
Yes.
Okay. So this is PowerPoint kind of popping up to say, hey, you're changing your slides. You might have something that gets cut off, or it scales strangely. So for us, we want to probably maximize. Let's do that one. Okay. So now it does look like all of our slides are changed. So the answer to that question is yes. If you change the size of your slide for one, it will change for all of them.
And it doesn't matter if you only have one slide highlighted. Like if you see right now, Rebecca has slide 2 highlighted and it's got that orange-ish box around it. When you're changing the slide size, it changes all of them, not just the one that's highlighted.
Yes. Sort of like we talked about last week with the design. If you change the design or theme of your slide, it will change all of them. So again, like we talked about last week with changing the theme, you also want to keep in mind that when you change something, what you have entered into your PowerPoint might also change. So not the content, but the positioning. So it looks like for us that if you notice the borders of our slide, that our picture is kind of going over the border. So I may need to move my picture around or resize it to get it the way I want it to look. And I may need to reorient the way my text is, especially with slide 3, because it looks like slide 3, the text is off of the slide. So you'll see that because it's kind of overlapping that gray part, that if I were to go into my presentation and start my slideshow, it may cut off that text when I do my presentation. So keep that in mind when you're switching sizes around or themes, that you may want to go and double check that your text and your pictures and everything that you have in your slides looks the way you want it to. So you can kind of tell that our slide is more square than the widescreen version. Let me go back to widescreen because I like widescreen. It gives me more space on my slide. There we go. So now it kind of bumped out. It's a little larger. You'll notice there's more white space on either side. So I have more room to put in larger pictures or more text. Personally, I like the widescreen for that reason. And it looks like my text was a little bit more centered than I had it before. So I'm going to move it back and make my picture a little bigger. So that's aspect ratio. Again, you would go to the design tab and then click on slide size and select. We used to use the standard size slide back in the day, but then I decided that I wanted to use widescreen so I can put in more info in the slides. It helps make the pictures bigger, and we rely a lot on visuals. So I thought the widescreen fit what we used it for better. Any questions so far about slide size?
No questions at the moment.
It's hard to say. I challenge everybody to say slide size 5 times fast.
Customized slide size. Blah. Yep.
See, it's hard. All right. Okay, so there is also, if we go into our view tab up at the top here, I'm going to click on view. And then you should notice in the top left corner, there's a group name called presentation views. So that's going to let you change the way that you're viewing your slides. So currently we have normal selected, but there is also an outline view. So if I click on outline view, then I can see that my slide has sort of converted into just the text. So I can see what's actually on my slide. So for instance, with my events and programs slide, I can see all of my bullet points there. I can also see them on my slide number 3. So the outline view is sort of easy to just see the actual text on your slide without going into each individual slide. So that might be helpful if you're looking to maybe print out an outline of what you have on your slides. The slide sorter view is also kind of a useful slide. I use that one a lot when I'm doing transitions and animations. And I'll show that again once we get to that portion of the presentation. But it's once you do transitions and animations, you can see them and how they're applied to the slides if you look in slide sorter view. And sometimes it's nice to look at all of your slides this way, especially if you have a larger presentation. And it's easy to rearrange this way too. So if I were to click and drag my slides, I can move them around pretty easily from here, especially if I had like a whole page of them. The notes page is also pretty useful. You can add notes to a PowerPoint presentation, sort of as if you were having like a little note card that you looked at. I like to add notes sometimes because I want to remind myself to say something, but I don't want that information to be actually on the slide. I find that helps because I want to get the information across, but I don't want to crowd the slide with too much information. So sometimes I'll just throw stuff in the notes, and that's an indication for me not to forget to mention that while I'm on that particular slide. There's also reading view. So reading view is really, really similar to the slideshow view. It kind of eliminates all of the toolbar. The ribbon will disappear, so you won't see all of the tools, but you can kind of go in and get a little sneak preview of what your presentation may look like. So that's reading view. And you'll notice too at the bottom of my reading view, I have some icons here as well. At the bottom right corner, I can flip through the slides here. I can also get to this menu, which will let me do a couple of things. I can edit my slides. I can go back to my slide screen by ending my show. Let me get back to reading view. And you'll notice there's a few extra different view options here on the very bottom right corner. So currently I'm in reading view, but I can switch back to slide sorter or my normal view, or I can jump straight into the slideshow if I'd like as well. So there's a couple tools down there that you might find useful. Let's go back to normal view because I want to get back to my ribbon where I can go and edit stuff, and I want to see all of my slides. All right. Any questions about the slide views?
No questions at the moment.
Okay. There is also another slide view that is outside of the view tab. It's in the slideshow tab. Can you see my mouse? It's kind of disappeared on me.
I could a second ago.
Here, let me try to
move it around a little. Okay, I saw that you hit slideshow.
Yeah, let me exit my okay. It's Word is or Zoom is being weird, so let me get back into it a different way.
Okay.
Okay, I think I got it back.
Yes, I can see it now.
Okay, sometimes it does that. I think it did that last time too.
Yeah, I remember we had to jump in and out again last time.
But yes, I can see it from like the present different views, it like throws it off or something. Okay, so as I was saying before, there is an additional view called presenter view. It's not in the view tab, it's actually in the slideshow tab. So you'll notice in our monitors group here, I have the option to use presenter view. So presenter view is cool because you can use it as a way to display your slideshow to your audience, but you have a different view on your side. So visualize it this way. You're standing up at a podium and you have your computer, you can see your screen, and then you have your presentation behind you on your screen that may be presented from, you know, like a projector. So you've got your little screen, but they can see your big presentation back there. If you use presenter view, the people that are watching your presentation are still going to see your slides, but on your small screen, maybe on your computer or your tablet, you're going to see a different view. Let me go back to my presentation here because it shows what that looks like. I can't show it on PowerPoint because it gets really wonky sometimes. So I'm just going to show it on our slides. So let me get into it here. Bear with me while I flip into the presenter view mode here. Okay. So I hope you can see that slide there with presenter view.
Yes.
Okay. So presenter view, again, is going to let you see certain things that your audience can't see. So you can see, of course, the slide that you're viewing, but you're also going to be able to see your upcoming slides. So it kind of lets you prepare for your next slide. It's also going to show the notes that you may have on your slide. So maybe you had, like I was saying, those kind of notes that you wanted to say but didn't want to include on your slide. It's also going to show a timer, which is really useful, especially if you have a timed presentation. So it's I like presentation view for that because you get all those extra tools, but you're not displaying them to your audience. So it's kind of like your fancy little version of PowerPoint that gets you into those more advanced features. I hope that makes sense with presenter view. It's kind of hard to explain without being in that setting, but I think it's a really useful tool if you're interested in presenting to groups. Okay, any questions about the different views?
No questions at the moment. Again,
okay.
feel free to jump in at any time if you have questions.
Okay, let me share my PowerPoint again here. Okay, so we're back to my PowerPoint. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right. So let's go back to the view tab for just a second because I do want to show one last thing in the view tab. What I want to show is in the show group here, And it's these things called ruler, grid lines, and guides. So I like to use these when I'm creating a PowerPoint because it helps me get things organized and get things looking really nice and neat. So if I click ruler here and I check mark this box, what it's going to do is going to show the ruler at the top and at the side of my slide. So you may have noticed this before if you've ever used Microsoft Word. There's also an option to add the ruler there. So that will kind of give me a size like about how big my slide is and about how big the things I'm inserting in the slides are. So you may find the ruler useful. Sometimes it's useful too with text, especially if you're doing bullet points. You can kind of change how far away your text is by using these sliders. There's a ton of different stuff you can do with your text and how it interacts with the ruler. I think it also has to do with margins as well. We don't talk about margins so much with PowerPoint, but you can get into some of the different more advanced features with the way your text looks and how it interacts. If we do grid lines, that's going to show the grid lines across your slide. So you'll notice there's kind of a graphic dots all across my slide there. So sometimes that's helpful, especially if you want to square things off and you want things to look neat. So maybe I wanted that to fall really evenly with something else. Maybe I had my text kind of fall under this guideline here. And then I wanted my picture to line up with it. It does take a little practice to move stuff around, but that way you kind of have stuff lined up. Maybe it looks a little neater than you would have had it previously. Some people like to use grid lines. I personally don't have them on just because it's a little distracting, but I do every once in a while like to check mark it on just to see where I am in terms of how things are lining up. The guides are also interesting too, because it will just give you a dotted line for the center there. So it's got a center cross across the slide. So again, that might help you move things around to make things look neater or oriented a certain way. So you'll just check mark that on or off if you want those to show up. All right. We're going to move on to doing some inserting. Does anybody have any questions though about what we just talked about?
No questions at the moment. Rebecca? Oh.
Last time. Does
There we go.
anybody have any
Okay.
questions about that? Because we're not going to cover pictures today, but I can if you want to know about it.
Sorry, Rebecca, we missed what you just said. Your screen froze for a moment. So if you, the last thing at least for me, the last thing I heard was if anybody had questions about the guides.
Okay. We're going to talk about inserting next.
Okay.
If anybody wants to know about inserting pictures, we can cover that, but we're not going to cover that today unless somebody wants to see that.
Okay.
We're going to talk about a couple other things.
I think folks in the chat have said that they're okay with pictures, so that they don't need to see it today.
Cool. Okay. So we're going to get into some more of the advanced tools that you can do in your insert tab, including hyperlinks, tables, shapes, and video. So let's talk about hyperlinks first. So first of all, what is a hyperlink? So a hyperlink you may have been familiar with if you've used the internet before. Hyperlink is basically a clickable link that is kind of attached to a piece of text. So for instance, if you're on a website and you see a text that may be underlined or colored differently and you click on it, if you click on it and it brings you to another site, then that is a hyperlink. So the cool thing is we can insert those into PowerPoint presentations as well. So that's kind of useful. Maybe if you wanted to link, for example, maybe we wanted to link our tech workshops here to our actual website, so that while we're presenting, we can click on that link and it will take us to the website so we can show that off during our presentation. So let's do that for tech workshops. What we're going to do first here is we're going to highlight our text that we want to hyperlink. So we're going to highlight tech workshops because that's where I want my link to go. And then we're going to go to our insert tab. And then we're going to click where it says hyperlink. So that's under the links group and then our hyperlink icon. And then it should pop up another window. I hope you're seeing that window.
Yes.
Okay, so let me actually pull something up on, I'm gonna move my Zoom tools around for a second here. Okay. So the box that comes up is going to allow you to type in the website address that you want the link to go to. So what you'll want to do is you'll either want to copy the URL that you want to be your hyperlink, or you'll type in the address if you know it by heart. Now, again, it has to be the exact address or it may not go to where you want it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy from our website. Let me stop my share and then share it from our website so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, I hope you see my Champaign Public Library page here.
I do.
Okay, so again, we wanted to create the hyperlink for our tech workshop, so let's find that website. We're going to go to adults and then tech workshops. Okay, so then you'll notice our URL appear in our search bar. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And then
Rebecca, can I point something out real quick?
Oh, sure. Let me go back to that. Go ahead.
For a URL, the https:// that's at the top is appearing now, but when you did champaign.org, it didn't appear because sometimes the browser adds that in behind the scenes for you. But for a URL that you're copying into a PowerPoint, you need to make sure you have that as well. Okay, so just make sure you have the full URL, which will include that http:// thing.
Yeah, I think sometimes websites or internet browsers will do that to sort of save just how it looks. It kind of looks a little messy with all that. But usually if you click on it, it should hopefully reappear. There we go. It did for us there.
Yep.
And then I'm just going to copy. Let me go back to tech workshops. Copy it. And then I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint. Oh, there we go. And then here down at the bottom of our pop-up window, I hope you can still see that.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Or at least I can.
So then I'm going to go ahead and paste my website into that box there. So then I can hit OK. And now you'll notice that my tech workshops text there is underlined and it's blue. So it sort of looks like a link on a website. And if I click it, I think I'd have to go into the presentation to click it and visit it. But if I right click it, I should be able to open the hyperlink from there as well, which will bump me out to the website. And then now since I've visited it, it's turned purple. Usually that happens when you visit a website as well and you click on a link. You may notice that it turns purple after you visited it. So that's kind of useful. Maybe you're doing a presentation and you want to have an aside and you didn't want to have to jump out of your presentation and then get onto the internet and type in all your stuff. You can just add that hyperlink in there and then click on it, and then it should bump you right there and you don't have to worry about all those extra steps. Any questions about hyperlinking?
None at the moment.
Okay. I use tables a lot in my presentations as well. I have one coming up. We're actually creating another presentation and I used a table in it. So let's go and insert a table into a new slide because we want to make a slide about how long we can keep things that we have checked out. So let me create that. How long can I keep? And then what we're going to do is we're going to be on our insert tab. And then if we click table over here in the tables group on the left side, then we have the option to kind of select how many cells or I'm sorry, rows and columns. That's what I wanted to say. Rows and columns that we want on our table. So you'll notice if I drag my mouse over these little boxes here, it's going to add in the different columns and rows, and it'll give me a preview on my slide. So right now I have a 3x6 table, but I can go really any size that I want. Now for this particular thing, if you wanted a table that was bigger than a 10x8, which is the size of this little example here, I can go to insert table instead, and then I can select how many I want without using that kind of dragging tool that I had before. So do you see that little box that says insert table?
Yes.
Okay. So then I could go in and then specifically type in the table that I wanted. So let me determine how many I want first, and then I can type that in. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I want 7 rows and 2 columns. So let me go ahead and do that. 7 rows and 2 columns. And then I'm going to click OK. All right, so now I have my table. You may have noticed that it's a certain color right now, but if you see up at the top, it's kind of got me into the design tab here, which then I can go in and maybe change my color if I wanted to. So maybe I wanted to have it be green or darker blue or gray or black or orange. It could be, you can get into the nitty gritty with some of that customizing, but I'm going to keep it blue because I like blue. Okay. So once I have my table inserted, then I could go in and enter my text. I should also keep in mind, give you an idea to keep in mind that if you want sort of a header at the top that will explain what's in your rows, then you may want to think about adding an extra row so that you have that title and then you have all of your items listed. So for us, we're going to put in item and then time, because we want to know how long we keep certain items for. So we have new books, and then we have 2 weeks. We have regular books, which are 4 weeks. We have hotspots. If you didn't know, we do have hotspots here at the library that you can check out. I don't think they're 4 weeks anymore, though. I think there's 2 weeks.
They are 2 weeks, yes.
We do have Chromebooks as well. I think Chromebooks are 2 weeks still, or are they 4? I can't remember.
The regular Chromebooks, I think, yes, I think everything is 2 weeks now.
And then we have entertainment, DVDs, and those are 2 weeks. Oh no, those are 1 week.
Yeah. We also have iPads now, which I don't think we had the last time. So maybe you want to put the iPads in there.
I think that's also 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. So if I wanted to create another row, I could just, let me see, actually, I think I can right click here. Can I? How did I do that last time? Let me go back to my insert. Here we go. Okay. So you'll notice I was in the design tab up here earlier once I inserted my table. Then I have this other tab that says layout, which will then let me go in and possibly insert a row or a column. I can also delete things out from here. So I'm going to go ahead and insert below, because maybe I wanted to add one more thing into here. I want to do audiobooks too, because I'm a really big audiobook person, and I believe those are also 2 weeks.
Those are 4 weeks.
Okay, so you're the expert on this one.
Yeah, I check out a lot of audiobooks from the library.
So, and you'll notice that happens quite often if you do something like when you're inserting a shape or a table in our instance, that this extra tab will come up here at the top that will let you do extra things with that particular thing you've inserted. So for us, it allows us to change the design of the table, but it also lets us do things with the table such as inserting, deleting, splitting cells, changing our cell sizes, heights, stuff like that. So you can get into the really nitty gritty of the customizing with those extra tabs that pop up. So keep that in mind when you're inserting things, that you'll notice those extra tabs come up in your ribbon. Those are extra helpful. Any questions about inserting a table?
We have a question that says tab. I'm assuming it was in response to your, how do I add an extra row, which you would go to the tab for layout. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Up here at the very top where it says table tools, then I clicked on the layout tab up here. And the way I think of tabs is kind of like different folders inside of maybe like a file, right? You have like maybe you've seen those manila folders that have that little tab on them, and then you can label them certain ways, and then you maybe have a whole big drawer full of all those tabs. Sort of the same way, you can kind of click through those and it will show you that information up here in the ribbon. I hope that's a helpful metaphor. Okay, so we can also insert shapes too. I talked about shapes. Let's go back to our insert tab. And for us, our shapes are in the illustrations group. So I'm going to go ahead and click on shapes. And then what it's going to do is it's going to pull up a big old list here. I hope you see that drop down menu.
Yes.
Okay. So these are shapes that I can select and then insert into my PowerPoint presentation. We use these very, very often with our presentations. You probably notice a lot of arrows and rectangles, but of course you can insert a bunch of other ones too. You can insert happy faces, you can insert hearts, bunch of different arrow types, different shapes, ribbons, banners, it looks like. That's kind of cool. I'm going to insert a banner because that looks like fun. Let me put that in there. So I'm going to select one. You'll notice, I think you may notice if I hover over one that the name of the shape will come up. So it looks like there's smiley face. I could hover over that and it says smiley face. Let's do the banner here, wave banner. So once I've selected my shape, it won't insert it until I've decided where it's going to go. So you may notice that my cursor now looks like a cross instead of the regular pointer. So that to me is giving me the opportunity to then decide where I want my shape to go. And then to insert my shape, I will click and drag it until it's the size that I want it to be. Now, don't worry too much about the size right now because you can always change it later. This is just giving you the option to kind of do it right here and to figure out where you want it to be placed. So I'm dragging mine around, and once I'm ready to insert my shape, I'm just going to let go of my left mouse button. And now I've got my shape. You should see the bounding boxes around your shape, which will then let you kind of customize the size and the dimensions of it. So I could squeeze it, expand it. I can even rotate it with this little rotate thing here. I can also change the color if I wanted to. So you'll notice as we were talking about the tabs that we have this format tab that has come up now that we've inserted the shape. So that will allow me to change the color, the fill, the outline, the effects. There's a bunch of different stuff you can customize within this format tab. So let's change the color. Maybe I wanted to make it orange with a, let's do a blue outline. It's not a very thick outline, so let me change the weight of it. And you'll notice that these can be super, super customizable. I could add dashes in there. Maybe I wanted it to dash lines. I can make effects. I can put a shadow around it. There's tons of different stuff you can do with all of this formatting. And I recommend just playing around with it. Maybe make a new presentation, play around with your shapes and how you can insert things. There we go. That's cool. So there's my shape. So the cool thing too is maybe I can insert a text box in here and kind of make it inside of the shape. So let me insert a text box here. And then I'm going to put the text box right in here. Maybe I could put in really whatever I wanted to, but I'll put in Champaign Public Library. Maybe I'll make it a little bit larger. And of course I could change the color if I go to my home tab. Maybe I wanted it to be green or something. Ooh, that's hard to see. Maybe I'll just keep it white. So yeah, shapes are pretty fun. You can do tons of different things with them. We keep them pretty simple with our presentations. We kind of just use the arrows and the rectangles, but there's a lot of different things you can do. Does anybody have questions about inserting shapes?
Can you change the shape of the text box to match that of the flag?
Oh yeah, let me try. Let's see. Let me move this more into the center and see what I can do. This one, I don't know if it's letting me do it so much because the bounding box is for the shape. I don't see a bounding box for my text. Let's see if I can figure that out. Text box, edit shape. I think the text is already going to the shape. Let me redo it and see what happens. So let me delete this out of here and let me insert another text box.
If you do a text box that's outside of that shape and then drag it over the top of it, basically creating layers, then you should be able to manipulate your text independently of the shape.
Yes, because I think what happened when I clicked in the shape with my text box is PowerPoint said, hey, we're going to associate this text with the shape. So you're not going to be able to move it around as much as you would if you were to place it outside and drag it inside.
Correct. So now it's like having two independent pieces.
Right. So let me change the outline maybe. Maybe I'll make it a white outline. It's hard to see now because I don't have it in the box, but let me change the size here. And a lot of it is trial and error and getting it the way you want it to look. So then I can, yes, it looks like I could expand my text box. It won't do much because I don't have very much text. But if you had like a paragraph or a sentence, you could kind of manipulate it more easy. I can use this circle then to kind of switch it around. Then I can go in and maybe make my text. Let's do white text because I liked how that looked earlier. Let's make it bold and italicized as well. Ooh, and you can add a drop shadow. That's cool.
Yeah. You could also, if you really wanted to have it match the wave that the shape is doing, you could choose word art instead of specifically from a text box too. But that's a little bit more advanced to grab the word art.
Yeah, let me go back. Let me delete that. So if I go to my insert, yeah, word art is in the insert tab under the text group. So word art here. I think if I were to write something, I have to write something first. So let me do that again. Let me add my text. I keep spelling that weirdly. I capitalized the second letter for some reason. And then I believe once I have that selected, if I go into insert and word art, will that let me change it? Oh, okay. So I just have to insert it and then I start typing.
Yeah, but there should be a way to, then you can select text effects and then you could give it that curve, which I think is what we're asking for, is the text effects. And then it's,
here we go.
Yep. Yeah, there you go.
So what I did is we have our text selected. Then I went to the format tab. Once that pops up, you can get into the text effects here under word art styles. So I could go in and maybe, oh, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. I could make it a circle, a curve. Oh, you can do a bunch of stuff.
So there might be a wave as one of the options in there.
There's sort of wavy looking ones
where you can kind of help make it match. Yeah.
Maybe like that.
Like that.
Yeah, that's not bad. It may be a little hard to look at, but I was playing around with some of this stuff.
You know, some of it's trial and error.
Yes. And you'll notice that too when you start doing presentations. Especially if you have text, it's important to have people be able to read it, right? So that's a balance that you have to kind of think about. That doesn't look too bad. That looks nice.
No, it looks like it's, you know, could have a flag, could be on a flagpole.
Yeah.
Right there. Our attendee says, great job.
Thank you. So it looks like if I move the text or I move the shape, I have to move them both individually because
Yeah.
they're not like attached to each other.
Something that's a little bit more advanced is to take the two things, select them at the same time and group them together. And I can't remember if you can do that in PowerPoint or not. If you grab them both and then can you say group? Yeah, group. It's in the middle
Oh,
column
I see
there.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will
them,
actually.
Then you can move them together.
Huh.
You should be able to.
I did it and it didn't do it. That may be something that we revisit later.
Yeah. I'll put that in the follow-up message about how to make them move together.
Sometimes when I want to move stuff together, I just make sure I highlight them both and then I move them.
Yes,
at the
that's
same
grouping.
time.
Yep. Yep. So you just did it.
Okay, so we had some fun with some shapes. I really enjoy using shapes and I like using the colors that Photoshop has too. And I like drop shadows a lot. I really enjoy a drop shadow. All right, so let's talk about inserting a video as well, because that's really useful for presentations. Like similar to the hyperlink, maybe you didn't want to have too much work behind the scenes to pull up a video and you just wanted to insert it into your PowerPoint instead. There is a way to do that. So let's go ahead and create a new slide. And we're going to do, what did we have for that one? Story time. We had a story time video. If I could spell right. Story time fun. Okay, so similar to the hyperlink, we're going to go to our insert tab. I guess we could say that to the shape and the text as well. And then we're going to click on video over here from our media group. There is also an option to do audio. We're going to cover video right now. So let me go into video. And then once I click on video, I have the option to select a video that I already have on my PC, which would then let you go and browse for the file and upload it. Or if I click on online video, that would let me pull a video from the internet. So here I could either search YouTube and post a video that was from YouTube, or I can get an embed code that is from a video that I already know where it is. So let's do the embed one because that's a pretty common thing that I see pretty often for people inserting. Your embed code is going to exist. A lot of times YouTube has the embed code that you can access. So for us, we do have that. Let's go ahead and go to YouTube. I'm going to stop my share. I know which video I want already. Let me go into YouTube here. And I'm going to go to videos. Let's pick a storytime video here to get uploaded. And of course, you can see all of our, you're probably seeing me scroll through all of our tech workshops. We have job career workshops up here. Let me see, I'm gonna have to scroll pretty far down because we have hundreds of videos now. Here we go, here's some storytime videos. So let's go ahead and upload. Let's do the thank you sign language because maybe we're doing a presentation on sign language and you wanted to show or demonstrate how to say thank you. So let's go ahead and click on the video. I'm going to pause it here. How do we get into that here? Let me see. I think it's share. Yes, here we go. Okay. So if I'm on YouTube and I click on the share button down here, and then I click on embed, do you see that in that pop-up window, Susan?
We actually still see you right now.
Oh no. Let me share
so
again.
You can try sharing your screen again.
That's weird. Share screen. There we go. Okay, I hope you're seeing that.
Now we're seeing the YouTube video with Kristen and the story time.
Good. Okay. So earlier I just went through to our YouTube video, found the video that I wanted to insert, and then we're going to find our embed code now. So how do we do that? Down at the bottom of our YouTube video, we have this button that says share. And then you should hopefully be seeing a pop-up video or pop-up window.
Yes, that I can see.
Awesome. And then you'll see where it says embed. We want to click on that. And then all of this kind of little code here is what we want to highlight. That's our embed code. So we're going to highlight it. We're going to copy it. And then we're going to go back to our PowerPoint. Let me get back in there. And then we're going to paste our embed code into that little box there from our insert video tool. And then I'm going to hit the arrow that says insert. And then I'm going to click down. Oh, okay, it did it on its own, so I didn't have to click down.
And
sometimes it takes a minute.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'll render the video. It'll look like a black box for a few minutes, and then it'll render the video.
So again, that's kind of useful if you wanted to not do the work of jumping out to the internet, finding the video online, and then playing it, and then jumping back into your presentation. If you insert the video, you can kind of go right from the PowerPoint. You don't have to do any extra steps. But it is important, again, to know which video you want to get into your presentation, and then find that embed code. Again, you don't have to do it the embed code way. You can find it by using the online video option and just searching YouTube. Or you can do it if you have the video already saved, of course, by doing video on my PC, and then I could go browse for it on my computer if I had it saved already. I hope that made sense. I know it's a little bit more advanced than just inserting a shape or a picture. It does take a little practice.
Yeah, and the alternative way to do it, of course, is to go ahead and just embed or just take the URL from the video and then click on it, and then but then that actually does take you out to the source, so it takes you to the web browser, and then you have to go from there.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
you could do a hyperlink potentially to the YouTube link. That's a good point.
Yeah, if embedding is more complicated.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's the thing with Excel and with PowerPoint and Word is there's kind of at least 3 or 4 ways to do things.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much it with inserting. Unless anybody had any questions, I'll move on to doing transitions and animations next.
No questions at the moment.
Okay, I'm actually going to create a new slide here because I want to make a slide that talks about our little checkout station, and we're going to apply some animations to that. And we're going to do some transitions into our slides from there. Okay, so let me create that. Let me insert a picture. I think I have it on my computer. Desktop. Do I have it on my computer? Hold on one second.
Sure.
Let me see if I can find it here. Huh, I thought I had saved it. I do have it though. Let me find it and just put it on the desktop really quick. Yes, there it is. So many windows to minimize. Okay.
I know, and sharing back and forth, it does get a little complicated to share the screen and then go back and share the other screen and then.
Okay.
So we appreciate your efforts.
Yes. Okay, so let me go ahead and insert my picture that I had from my desktop. And it's our self-checkout here up on the 2nd floor of the library. Just in case you didn't know, you don't have to use that checkout desk on the 1st floor. You can come use the one up on the 2nd floor. So I'm going to put that right in the middle because I kind of want to point out a couple things on the actual slide. So let me get to my little example here so I know what I'm pointing out. Okay, so I'm going to insert my shapes here. I'm going to do an arrow. Let me find a good arrow over here. We're going to point to that. We're going to insert another shape. So this is real-time creation here. We're going to do another arrow to here. And we're going to do one more shape. Yes, I see it. We're going to do it right there. Okay, so now I've got my 3 arrows because we want to point out different things about how to use the checkout station for this particular slide. Okay, let me insert some text too, because I want to point out what to do. We're going to do place books here. I'm going to move this text just a little bit. We're going to insert another text box here. We're going to enter pin number. We're going to put that below that arrow. Let me rotate this a little bit, make it a little bit smaller so it makes more sense. There we go. And then we're going to do one more. Oops, we don't want comment. We are going to do place library card here. Okay. Okay, I've got everything. Let me take that comment thing away. I don't know why I did that. Okay, accidentally pressed that button. Okay, so now I've got my self-checkout slide, and we want to add some animations to this slide. So I should point out that animations are different than transitions because your animations are applying to things within the slide. For instance, we can animate these arrows, or we can even animate the text. With transitions, that's going to be the transition from slide to slide. So for instance, when you're moving from one slide to the next slide, your transition will make it customized for how it looks. That's going to make more sense once we do a transition. But the animation is for the things within your slide, and the transition is between the slides. I hope that makes sense. So let's do, what are we doing first? Are we doing animation? Let's do transitions. I feel like transitions are the easiest thing to do first, and then we can animate the slide. So let's go ahead and insert a transition. So if we go to our transitions tab, we have a lot of different options up here, up at our top here. So we have currently selected, we have none. We don't have any transitions from slide 5 to slide 6. But I can select one of these from this menu, or there's a couple of arrows here which will expand this menu into even more. So if I click on that bottom arrow there, then I can get into these different categories of transitions. So we have the subtle category, the exciting category, and the dynamic content category. So this again is going to show that transition animation from one slide to another. So let's do that, and we can hopefully show an example of that as we're doing our slideshow. So I want to have a transition from, let's do from slide 1 to slide 2. So I want to select the slide that I want to have the transition to the next slide. And I'm going to go ahead and select, let's do split. So as I selected it, you actually will kind of get a little preview of what it looks like. And I can, if I do a different one, it will show what it looks like. Do you see that as I'm clicking them?
Yes.
Okay. So it looks like since I have the first one selected, it's my transition into this particular slide. So for us, once I click on slideshow and it's showing that first slide, it's going to show that transition that I had selected. So let's do, what do I want? I'm going to do shape because that seems like a nice one for our intro.
Mm-hmm.
And then for slide number 2, let's go ahead and do wipe. Let's see what else there is. Some of these are really, really strange, like the origami one.
Yeah, it's a super obvious one for demonstration purposes, but
the airplane one.
Maybe not one that you would use in a formal presentation.
Yes, that's also true. There is a balance then with the transitions. You don't want to get too goofy if you're trying to be pretty formal. That's why it's sort of useful to get into these categories, because if it's a subtle transition, it might be more appropriate for a more formal presentation. But some of these are kind of interesting. Like I like the ripple one. That's kind of fun. Let's go back to subtle because I think we pretty much go with maybe
blinds occasionally.
That's what we do. I was trying to find that one. We do blinds, I think, for the agendas.
Yes.
So let's keep
Sometimes
that
you'll
one.
notice that. It's not always consistent, but sometimes you'll notice that.
Yes. Let's put a transition on slide number 3. Let's go ahead and do page curl since we're doing what can we check out.
Yeah.
And then we'll do another one for slide 4. Let's do doors. That one's pretty cool. And then our story time one, let's keep it simple.
Surprised the embed didn't show up yet.
And then let's do one more for the last one. Let's do the clock one. I kind of like that one. Okay. That would have made sense for how long can I keep it. Let's do that clock one. I can't find it. Let's go back here. There we go, clock. And then we'll change this one to gallery. That's cool. Okay. So you may have noticed over here on our slides that each slide has a little icon under it now. So we have a little star under slide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That means those all have something that we've edited. And in our case, we've added that transition, so it's showing the star. If we go back to our view tab and we go to slide sorter view, you'll also notice those little icons under each of the slides. So that's what I was kind of mentioning before. That little icon will show up with those slides. It's kind of easier to see in this view, maybe than some of the other views. There is a way to preview them, I thought, too. Let me go back to transitions.
On the left.
Oh, okay, duh, it says preview. So if I click on our slide and I hit preview, it's going to show me a preview of that transition I have applied to the slide. So if I go to 3 and I hit preview, it's going to show that. Cool. So let's actually go into a slideshow and see. Ooh, did you see that transition?
I did.
So now you can see as we're flipping through our slides that all of those little transitions we've applied are now on our presentation. And of course, they don't have to be different for every single slide. You can make them all the same, or you can make them subtly different, or you can just apply 1, 2, 3 transitions. You don't have to do it to every single slide. Okay. Any questions about transitions?
And no questions at the moment.
Okay. So let's talk about animations. Let's do the animations for that checkout slide because I added all those arrows and I want to animate them. Sometimes it's fun to do animations if you wanted to point something out in your slide, you wanted to draw attention to certain things, or even if you wanted to make your text appear at certain times during your presentation. So for instance, like with our webinar handouts, we have that agenda page, and that agenda page covers everything that we cover during the webinar. Sometimes we have them animate so that if I click, one line will show up and then the next line will show up after I click again, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of useful to reveal information that way by using animations rather than just having all the text up at once. Like this here with our events and programs slide, all of our text is showing up at once, but we could potentially animate this so that I had to click to reveal the text line by line. So it's kind of fun what you can do with the different animations. So let's get into the animations tab, and we're going to apply some animations. So similar to the transitions tab, it has this bar up here at the top, which will let us select our animation. Let's make it show up a little easier if I click on a shape here. There we go. So you'll see it kind of light up here and I can select an animation. If I click on the more button, it's going to show our different categories. So these are a little different than the transitions in that they make your shape do certain things at a certain time. So for instance, if we use one of these entrance animations, that means that the animation is entering the slide. So it's not there already when you start. Once you do the entrance, it comes in as you click down. If you have an emphasis animation, that means it may, your selection may already be on the slide, but your animation is going to emphasize it in some way. So for instance, it may pulse, it may move around, it may darken, lighten, get bigger, spin around. We're going to do all of these so you can see what they all look like. And the exit animation is something that will be on your slide already, but it will exit out of the slide. So for instance, it may disappear, it may wipe out of the slide, it may fly out of the slide. All of these different options here you have for something that you want to leave your slide. And then motion paths are more advanced, but those are things that you can kind of make do certain movements on your slide. So for instance, you can make it go in a certain shape, even a custom path you can use. I haven't really used motion paths very often, but I think it's a more advanced animation.
Yeah, it's basically if you want to have, like, say you take one of those arrows and you want it to follow a specific pattern across your slide, then you can put down the path that you want it to follow. So if you wanted that arrow to make a wave formation or something across the slide, then it would do that with motion path.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I also don't use them very often.
I think they're
ever.
a little bit.
I think I've only really used them for demonstration purposes in this particular handout.
So you have used them.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do an animation just so we can see all of the different categories and what they do. So let's do an entrance animation. Let's go ahead and select one. So we want to first select what we want to animate, right? So maybe we want to animate this text here so that when we click down, that text comes into the slot. So I'm going to select my text box here. So it's got the bounding box, and then I'm going to figure out what I want. Let's do fly in. Whew, okay. So now you may have seen that. Let me preview it again over here. Now you'll see where my text says place books here. It's now flying in to the slide from outside the slide. I also have the option over here on the right-hand side to change the effects options. So this will let me decide where I want it flying in from. So currently I have it from the bottom, but maybe I wanted it to come in from the left. Let's do top left. Okay, that's kind of cool. So I do preview, and now instead of coming from the bottom, it's coming from the top left. And you'll notice over on the right-hand side in my ribbon, I also have the option to change the duration, the delay of the timing, and I can decide how I want that animation to start. So for instance, I could have it start with me clicking down, or with previous or after previous. So I believe that is with the previous animation I had or after the previous animation. Is that right, Susan? Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, I would practice these because there's so many different things you can do with animations. If you're interested in using them, just go ahead and make a test PowerPoint like we're doing today, and just giving them all a try and seeing what they all do. You'll also notice that I have a number 1 over here next to my text box. That's the order that I have for my animation. Once I start adding more, then it will give me other numbers that go lower than 1. So 1, 2, 3, and I can reorder those too if I want. So let's do pin number. Let's change the animation for pin number. Let's see what I want. Let's do an emphasis. So let's make it spin. Ooh, that's cool. So I could also change the options for mine. Maybe I only wanted it to do a half spin. So it's upside down now. That might work better if it's like a shape rather than text. Mm-hmm. But I could do counterclockwise. I think I could change the duration for that too. Maybe I wanted it to go a little faster. So let's try 0.05. Let's see if that does anything. Oh yeah, that goes faster. My effects options, I don't want it to be a half spin anymore. No, stop. Full spin. Whoa, that was quick. Okay.
5-second full spin.
Woo. Enter pin number.
Super spinny.
That's a little too fast. Maybe I want to go back to 1.5. There we go. That's better. It's not as slow as 2, but not as quick as 0.5.
And like you said, it's all about just using that preview and changing things around to how you want them to make it dynamic.
Yeah. And especially with the text, if you have a lot of stuff going on, then it may be a little hard for people to read it or understand it. So I've got a 1 on my first one, and now you see a number 2 on my second animation. Let's do my place library card here animation. Let's do an exit animation so we can see what that looks like. Let's do bounce. Oh, that doesn't look as good as I thought.
Bounce is a fun one.
I'm gonna do, what's disappear look like? Preview. Okay, that's boring. I like to have something fun. What is shrink and turn? Oh, that was cool. That's kind of cool. So let's keep that there. Okay, so you'll notice I have 1, 2, and 3 for my animation. If I click up here where it says animation pane, that will show me the order of my animations, what type of animation I have, the duration, and I can switch these around too if I didn't want place books here to be number 1 and instead I wanted it to be number 2, because first thing I have to do is, actually the first thing I have to do is place my library card. So let me put that number 1. And then I have my pin number, because after I put my library card, I need to put my pin. And then once I do all that, I can put my books down. So let's go ahead and preview all of that. So I got 1, 2, and 3. Cool, that's the order I wanted it in it from the beginning. So your animation pane, again, is going to let you get into the ordering of your animation, and it's going to give you a little more info about like the timing and all that. So use that animation pane to change yours. I know we've used that before for our tech workshops. Some of the stuff that we use maybe gets out of order because we've copied some stuff and some information from other slides. So sometimes we like to get into that animation pane to make sure everything is the way that we want it to be. So again, it just takes practice to figure out the way you like it and how it works. So don't beat yourself up if it's not working for you right away. Okay, I think that pretty much covers animations and transitions. We didn't do anything with shapes, but it's pretty much the same thing. You would just select your shape and then you could select your animation. So maybe you wanted it to, ooh, that looks cool. Yeah, let's do that. So then I could go in and let's go to our slideshow and then from current slide. So once I start clicking, then all of my info here is going to show up. There we go. So you'll see all those little animations that I had on there.
Mm-hmm. And this is also a point where if you wanted to group the text with the shape, this is where you would also use that group objects and you would group them together. If you wanted the arrow to do the same thing and come like fly in with the text or something like that. So just keep that in mind too, where you can group them together to pair them.
There we go.
And then they will do the same. Yeah, and then they'll do the same thing.
Let's see. Okay, I may have to redo some of those animations because I think once I grouped it, it took it off because
yeah, it does, because then it makes them have the same animation or whatever. So it flies in together.
There we go.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. There's so many different things you can do. That one's cool. There we go. Okay, cool. Does anybody have any questions about transitions or animations?
No questions so far.
Okay. And again, I usually like to go into the slide sorter view to then see which ones I had with those special animations or transitions. Now, it won't show me what exactly is on there, so I can't tell if it's got a transition or an animation. It doesn't get specific. It just shows it's got that little kind of star on there. But it looks like if I click it, it shows the preview of the transition, which is kind of nice. Let me see if it does the animation. Oh, okay, it does. Looks like it's inserting all that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of fun. It's kind of a neat way to get a little preview of your stuff. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers it. Let me go back to our PowerPoint here for our handout. Of course, if you want to see something again, I'm happy to show or demonstrate. But let me get into this. Let's see. Yay, it did it. Okay, cool. We have some additional resources here that I've included from a number of sources. So GCF Learn Free is a really useful resource. We use it really often when we craft our webinars. And they have tons of different topics that you can learn. So we have the PowerPoint one highlighted here, but there is one on Word, Excel. There's also one on the internet, Windows computers, Apple computers. There's even like, I believe, a keyboard and mouse class. So if you wanted to brush up on your typing skills, there's a ton of different stuff on there, and it's really nice, and it gives you step-by-step instructions with a lot of visuals. So we find those very useful for us. There's also a PowerPoint online training that Microsoft Office has. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about PowerPoints for Windows, you can take that little online training. LinkedIn Learning is also a really useful resource. If you're a Champaign Public Library card holder, you have access to LinkedIn Learning, which are tutorial videos on different software. It also has videos on different subjects, like maybe you're learning more stuff about your career or are interested in something like Photoshop. There's tons of different videos on LinkedIn Learning. And of course, there are videos on PowerPoint. So check those out if you're interested. They're similar to our tech workshops in that they're courses. So you can take those online if you visit our website, champaign.org/LinkedIn Learning. We also have something called Gale courses. So that's also for Champaign Library card holders. And those are 6-week courses that are taught by, I believe, college professors. And those begin each month, and you can sign up for those. They'll tell you which days they take place on. And I haven't taken one before, but I know Susan has taken a couple.
Yeah, they usually, I believe, start whatever the week is, that will have like the 12th or 13th or 14th or 15th. I think those are all the dates I've had a class start before.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different courses on there too. You can learn like photography stuff, Photoshop,
Yes.
Excel, Word, tons of stuff. And then of course we do have print books because we are a library. You can come in and grab those off the shelf. We have the PowerPoint stuff in the 005s in our nonfiction stacks. Teach yourself visually, I really like. I'm actually using one of those right now to craft a Chromebook class, which is going to be exciting for the future. But I am a really visual learner, so that helps me a lot because I can't always really concentrate on too many words on a page. I need those visuals to help me.
Same. I'm a visual learner as well.
And then coming up in April, we are going back to in-person starting on April 12th. So on the 5th, we are having a virtual course. Same thing, we're going to be on Zoom. But then on the 12th, 19th, and 26th, we will be in person. Yay! So come visit us in person and get. You can take our Getting to Know iPhones and iPads class. I'll be teaching that. We also are doing Getting to Know Android phones and tablets, and a really fun class that we like to hold called Taking Pictures with a Smartphone or Tablet. So if you're interested in learning more about your camera that's on your device, come to that class. It's really fun. And it's getting more, warm out. It's getting nicer. You probably want to get out more and take your phone with you and take some pictures. So that's a fun class. We really like teaching. Now I should say the webinars are not going away completely. We're still going to hold at least one webinar a month. So look forward to those. They will say virtual on our events calendar. And you'll, of course, once you sign up, you'll get the Zoom link for those. So this is just the advertisement for our Intro to Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides, which is that virtual webinar on the 5th of April. And then another really exciting class we have coming up is our virtual reality class. So we have virtual reality equipment here that we are really excited to use again. We haven't done this in so long. So our first class is going to be Space and Astronomy with Eric Johnson, who is the director of Starkville Planetarium. So that's Monday, April 11th at 6:30. Of course, that will be in person because unfortunately we can't do VR through Zoom quite yet, maybe in the future. But champaign.org/events, and you can sign up there. We also have Book a Librarian, our service that we provide for one-on-one consultations. So if you're interested in getting help one-on-one with a more advanced or in-depth question, we can help answer that. So if you visit champaign.org/book-a-librarian, you can fill out the form there, and then a staff member will contact you and hopefully get that question answered with you one-on-one. And you can always call in too, and we can fill out the form for you, or email us and we can help you over the email. YouTube is a really, really great resource for all of our webinars because we do upload them after they're all ready from our live webinars. So if you've missed the PowerPoint part 1, you can get on YouTube. It is uploaded there. We also have all of our previous webinars up there for our tech workshops, as well as stuff like our career workshops, crafty adults, writers workshop. I'm probably missing something else, but there's a bunch of stuff up on our YouTube channel that you should check out because it's amazing. And then I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you. If you're interested in learning about stuff that we have coming up in terms of our events and programs for our tech workshops, you can sign up for our monthly message at champaign.org/tech workshops. Tech workshops has a hyphen in between, but basically you'll just put in your first name, last name, and your email, and you'll get those notifications about stuff that's coming up, and you can sign up right through that email as well. And that's it from me. I have my email here and my phone in case you want to reach out and ask any additional questions. But I think that's all I have for today, unless I can help show something again or answer any other questions.
So Rebecca, we do have a question about, will the future workshops be available online as well?
So the in-person ones will not be available online, but anything that we record via Zoom, like for instance, on the 5th of April, when we have that virtual workshop, that will be on Zoom. So keep an eye out for those. You can always sign up. And even if you're not able to attend, you'll get the link for the video later. I know pretty often people sign up and maybe they have another commitment. That's okay. We'll send you the video eventually. But yeah, unfortunately, the in-person ones we are unable to record at this time.
Yeah, but we will be continuing to do virtual workshops for a while because I know people have expressed interest in continuing to have virtual workshops. So we will continue to do them as long as folks would like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go ahead and start my video here too. So yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, our hope is to keep the content fresh up on the YouTube channel as well as, things change. So often the social media things like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, will change what icons look like and things, and hopefully we'll have the online ones that can then update those workshops that are up there too.
Yes.
So.
And we'll be at the workshops in person. So come say hi to us.
Come say hi to us.
Sign up.
We'll also have some volunteers helping with individuals throughout the room. We have in-person activities, so you'll actually get to be hands-on with stuff. So if you're, I think we call them kinesthetic learners or tactile, you get to actually practice and do it live as well. So yeah, so there's advantages to both platforms, and so we want to continue to do that as much as we can for people. So
yeah, and we're really excited to see people again.
We are.
Not that we're not seeing people now, but it'll be fun to get back in the classroom.
Yeah, not that we don't like discussing our cats with each other, but sometimes it's nice to discuss pets with other people too.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, do we have any other final questions or thoughts? Thank you. We have a comment that we're both good at the workshops.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll see everyone on the 5th, which I realize is next week.
April is coming up quick.
Google Sheets, Docs, and Slides. And after that, we'll start working with our phones in person.
Yay.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks.
Intro to iPhones is the first in person.
Yes. All right. Thank you for attending today, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.